Good afternoon. Welcome to another segment of the Jermaine Brown Sports Talk Show. Today is Tuesday, July the 5th, 2016. Today's segment is going to be about the blockbuster move that took place in the NBA yesterday where Kevin Durant announced that he was going to be leaving OKC to go play with Golden State. Now, there's a lot of controversy behind it because a lot of people expected him to re-up or stay with OKC, which is Oklahoma City for those who are not familiar with it. And if he was going to leave, it was going to be for Golden State, but no one thought he was really going to leave. But you see, here's where the whole problem comes into. Why do I think he left OKC? And I have a theory. My theory is this. He spent some time with Westbrook this summer after the season ended with, after they got eliminated by Golden State. Him and Westbrook spent some time in Los Angeles. And I believe he took the tea leaves, as they say, of Westbrook's feelings after this upcoming season. Because Durant's going to be was a free agent this season. Westbrook will be a free agent next season. So then now, I believe in some way, form, or fashion, Westbrook sent the message to Durant. Indirectly, directly, I can't say. I don't have no sources. I don't have no inside information. I haven't read any stories on it. I'm just speculating. But I believe that somehow, some way, Westbrook sent the message to Durant that Westbrook will not be there after next season. And I think Durant took the tea leaves and says, well, if we make another run at this and we don't win, we come up short, and Westbrook bounces after next year, which means he leaves. Now I'm pretty much stuck because he couldn't wait to go next year to Golden State because Golden State was going to have to deal with Harrison Barnes this year, re-sign Harrison Barnes this year, and they was going to have to re-sign Festus Ezeli this year. So that means they wouldn't have had the money to go after a Kevin Durant. And they keep in mind that they got to max out Stephen Curry next season. So you got to keep that part in mind. They got to max out Stephen Curry next season because Stephen Curry's going to want max money, and rightfully so. So they wouldn't have had the money to sign Durant a year later from now. So Durant was looking at this as saying, well, if I wait a year, my options become limited because the teams that I would want to go to will not have the cap space to sign me, which means now it becomes more difficult for me to go to those places. So, because I do not believe that if, let's say Westbrook had left after next year, I do not believe Durant would have wanted to stay because now the team is just going to be Durant and a bunch of role players. And Durant, I think, saw this and said, well, if Westbrook is not going to stay, then let me get out now while I have a chance. And I think that's the real reason why Durant left OKC for Golden State. Because I do not believe Durant really wanted to leave OKC, but once he realized, I think some way, some form or fashion, Westbrook sent the message to him that next year was going to be Westbrook's last season in OKC. Because I think Westbrook was looking for greener pastures, LA, New York, or some other areas where he has a chance to improve his brand. And I do believe that came into play. Quiet as it's kept. And again, I believe that somewhere down the line, we're going to hear this. Somewhere down the line, I think this story is going to be, my theory may be confirmed. But as of right now, again, I don't have any sources or inside information or anything like that. I'm just speculating as to why I think Durant made this move now. And now, this brings me to Stephen A. Smith and ESPN. Now, Stephen A. is opinionated, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because we all have opinions. But to me, he is being disingenuous because to basically call Durant moving from OKC to Golden State a weak move when he did not criticize LeBron for making the move to Miami, I think it's not only disingenuous, it's just flat out crazy. I mean, what Durant did. Now, I don't want people, no one watching this podcast to think that I agree with the move that Durant made. I think he would have been better off staying in OKC. But that's my own opinion on that. But I'm not going to criticize Durant for this move because you know why? For a number of reasons. Number one, he handled it in the most classiest way you could possibly handle this. That's number one. And number two, I understand the reasoning behind the move. Because he's going to a team that can compete for the next 4-5 years. Okay? Golden State is a young team. Curry, Thompson, Green. They all. Curry's the oldest at, 28 years old? He's the oldest. So they're a young team. They got at least a 4-year run in them. 4 or 5 year run in them. Easy. So I'm not going to criticize. I mean, I don't like the move that he made by going to Golden State. I don't think it was the best fit. But I'm not going to kill Durant for making this move because I understand the reason. It's a basketball decision. It's about winning titles. Now, I will say this. Durant better win in Golden State or he'll never hear the end of it. He'll never live this down. Just like LeBron had to win when he went to Miami. But here's why I say the way LeBron did it, his move to Miami was worse than what Kevin Durant going to Golden State was. First of all, the way LeBron handled it. Okay? He kept it secret, but him and Bosh and Wade planned this years in advance. So when I hear people say, oh, well, he couldn't get nobody to come play with him in Cleveland, you want to know why? Because LeBron didn't really recruit players to come to Cleveland because he was already planning his exit. So LeBron really wasn't trying to get players to really recruit to go to Cleveland because he was already planning his exit years before. He was already planning his move. Durant, I don't think, was planning his exit out of OKC years before. I think it was a fluid situation up until the time he made his decision. Why do I say that? Because when LeBron, once the season ended in 2010, when they lost to Boston, he cut off communication with all employees, player or teammates from the Cavaliers. He didn't even talk to any of them. He cut off communication. He went, as they say, he went dark. So that told you right there he wanted no part of the Cavs at that point. Where Durant still gave OKC a meeting. Durant still allowed OKC to make their pitch. So that tells me right there that Durant's mind was not made up where LeBron's was. That's number one. Number two, so not only was it planned that he was going to go to Miami, okay, but again, LeBron was known as the king. Durant don't have that title as the king. So the king went to go team up with another great player to go get his ring. This is why I said I believe that LeBron winning the championship in Cleveland was much more important than the two he won in Miami. Because to me, winning the championship in Cleveland really validated LeBron. More so than winning the championship in Miami. Because why? He went to another man's house to get his ring. And they're trying to now say, well, no, LeBron was the man in Miami. No, he wasn't. Dwayne Wade was really the man in Miami. How do we know this? Because first of all, Dwayne Wade was already a champion before LeBron got there, number one. Two, Dwayne Wade was already a superstar by the time before LeBron got there, number two. Number three, when LeBron and Bosh tried to basically push Eric Spoelstra out, do a power play, as we say, they tried to do to Spoelstra what LeBron basically did to David Blatt. Who was it that quickly nixed that? When he tried to get Riley to come back to the bench. Who was it that nixed that? Dwayne Wade. And when Dwayne Wade spoke, everybody listened. There was no Dwayne Wade in Cleveland. So when LeBron wanted David Blatt out, David Blatt was gone because no one was going to speak up for David Blatt. There was no Dwayne Wade to say, no, David Blatt is our head coach and that's it. LeBron is the grand poobah in Cleveland. Dwayne Wade was the grand poobah and is the grand poobah in Miami. So don't give me this that that was LeBron's team. It wasn't. It was Dwayne Wade's team, folks. So that's a lie that's being told. So, number one, so when I hear that, oh, it was a weak move. No, what LeBron did was weak, folks. And the way he did it was weak. And even LeBron admitted as much. Durant did it in the most classiest way you can do it. So even if I don't agree with the move, and yes, to me, what they did was very similar. They both went to go chase titles. So it's really the same move. They just did it differently. They just went about it differently. But for Stephen A. Smith to lambast Kevin Durant, who we already know that he already had some issues with that Kevin Durant, but not lambast LeBron James is really wrong. Because even on this one, I got to agree with Chris Broussard. Because Chris Broussard, who I'm no fan of, by the way, but Chris Broussard said, no, this is really the same move that LeBron did. And he's right. It's the same move. They just simply did it differently. But it's the same move. And don't give me this, what, Cleveland was weaker than what OKC is. Yes, though, that is true. But, well, they was one game away from the finals. But they didn't get to the finals. They didn't win. It's not like they beat Golden State, lost in the finals, and won the finals, and then he's going to go to State. That's not the case. They didn't beat Golden State. They might have been up 3-1, but they didn't beat them. And you could make the argument they might have been fortunate to be up 3-1 because really, Golden State, when they're on, folks, they're just that darn good. It's hard to beat them. Because Golden State really should have beaten Cleveland, folks. I will make the argument that Golden State lost that series more than Cleveland won it. But nonetheless, at the end of the day, that's taking nothing away from what Cleveland did. And I feel bad for Oklahoma City. I really do, because you're losing to the second or the third best player in the league. Or the second or third best player in the world. You're losing him. And you're getting nothing for it. So, now this brings me as to what should OKC do at this point. What I'm going to have a sit down with Russell Wilson. I mean, not Russell Wilson. I keep calling it Russell Wilson. Wilson. I mean, oh my God. Westbrook. Russell Westbrook. We're going to have a sit down with Russell Westbrook if I am OKC. And I am going to ask him this. What is your intentions with this team long term? If he simply says he's just going to play out his contract this year and see, then I'm making my move now. I'm not going to wait for him. Because I have to get back some value. I can't lose my top two stars and get nothing in return. But what you don't want to do is do two things. Number one, you don't want to take on bad contracts to get back something. A la what the Knicks did when they traded Patrick Ewing for Glenn Rice and so they took on bad contracts, and that's what started the whole vicious cycle. You don't want to do that. So you don't want to take on bad contracts to move a star. Okay? The second thing you don't want to do is this. End up moving him to a team where you really are going to get no value. So you want to get some value, preferably some draft picks, because if you know what you're doing, you can rebuild through the draft. Sam Presti's a guy who knows what he's doing. He knows how to find gems in the draft, so he's good at that. Where some other GMs, I would not recommend trying to build through the draft because they're not very good at it. Well, Sam Presti seems to be very good at it. So what I would do is, if I'm Presti, I'm sitting down with Russell Westbrook, and I'm letting him know. Well, I'm not going to let him know. I'm going to ask him, what's your intentions long-term? If you're committed long-term with us, we'll be committed long-term with you. But if you're sitting up here basically waffling or saying, well, let's let this play out, boom, 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 I'm going to make my move because I have to get something for you. Because to lose Durant is a blow. Matter of fact, OKC just went from a title contender to basically a middle-of-the-pack team overnight. Now, are they still a playoff team the way they're currently built? Yes. But they're a middle-of-the-pack team. Make no mistake about it. They're no longer what we call an elite-level team. And in the NBA, you don't want to be a middle-of-the-pack team. You want to be either up top or at the bottom, near or at the bottom. You don't really want to be in the middle in the NBA. That being said, So that's what OKC, I think, needs to do. As far as what this does for Golden State, well, you strengthen yourself in one area because you're getting a superstar who can flat out score. But you weaken yourself in another area because your bench isn't as strong as it needs to be. Because remember, keep this in mind, folks. Golden State almost won this title without their starters playing that well. Their bench is what carried them in this postseason. Guys like Sean Livingston, Andre Iguodala, okay, Festus Ezeli. These were guys who played big roles. Marquis Spates. These are guys who played big roles in them to get in where they were at. And now they're about to lose at least a few of those guys. So their bench just got a little weaker. So it's going to be interesting to see how Golden State manages that. But they're going to be in the finals next year. Because I don't see, other than San Antonio and maybe the Clippers, I don't see no team that can compete with them. And San Antonio's too old. They're not as athletic. And I think that's a bad matchup for San Antonio. The Clippers, well, first of all, the Clippers have to stay healthy. But assuming they can stay healthy, remember, this is a team that never got out the second round. With this team currently constituted, never got out the second round. So they're going to have to prove themselves. So really, I like Golden State. It's going to be Golden State and Cleveland again in the finals. The Knicks might have a say in the East because the Knicks have quietly built a very good team that should be able to compete in the East. The Knicks quietly have built a good team. Now, speaking of the Knicks may have been the biggest beneficiaries of the Durant move to Golden State out of all the teams out there. The reason I say that is because there was talk that Westbrook was considering the Lakers and the Knicks, those two teams in particular, that there was chatter around the league, let me put it that way, that he was looking at the Lakers and the Knicks as the two teams to go to. Okay, the Lakers because it's home, and the Knicks because fashion industry of the world, boom, boom, boom. And he's into fashion, and this have a chance for him to build his brand. And to players, this stuff is very important. Well, I think by Durant making the move that he just made, I do believe that Westbrook is gone after next year. I think this confirms that Westbrook will be gone after next year. So then now, if you notice the way the Knicks did this, Rose is only under contract for this upcoming season. Brian and Jen, they only signed guys who were under contract for this upcoming season. Now, Noah, yes, he has 4 years on his deal. Some guys have, but in other words, they'll have the cap space next year. If they want to bring in Westbrook, they can bring in Westbrook. So they can always exchange Rose for Westbrook, and it would be seamless for them. So look for the Knicks to be in play for Westbrook next year. I'm not saying they will get him, but look for him to be in for them to be in play. And I think that's good. They may have benefited the most from the Durant move out of all the other teams. I want to thank you for watching another segment of the Jermaine Basketball's Talk Show. Have a nice day.